Have you ever made a mistake, and instead of saying I'm sorry, you gave an excuse? It wasn't my fault. I was tired. You misunderstood me. Sounds familiar? And what happened next? Did the person forgive you? Or did your excuse make things worse? Sometimes, one little excuse can ruin a big part of your life. And sometimes, you think you have more time, more chances. But life doesn't wait. This is the story of a man who had everything: money, success, friends. But he lost it all because of ego, pride, and excuses. But what he found later was something much more powerful: wisdom, peace, and the truth about life. His name was David. And this is his story. Life lessons from a man who lost everything and gained wisdom. His name was David. In his 20s, he was what people call a winner. He was smart, confident, always dressed in a sharp suit, with a smile that said, "I've got this." By the age of 28, he had built a small company. His phone never stopped ringing. His office had glass walls. His bank account had more zeros than he ever imagined. People looked up to him. They said, "Wow, David, you're going places." And yes, he believed them. He walked fast, talked fast, made deals over coffee, promised things he couldn't always deliver. But no one noticed, because he looked like success. Except, there was something David couldn't do. He couldn't say, "I'm sorry." When things went wrong, he always had an answer. An excuse. "It's the team's fault. I had too much on my plate. That client was impossible." One day, a friend told him, "You know, David, sometimes you mess up too." David laughed. "Hey, I just play the game smart." But what David didn't see was that his pride was building a wall. A wall between him and the people who truly cared. And behind the charm, the smile, the fast deals, was a man who was too afraid to look weak. He never asked for help. He never said thank you to his team. He never stopped to reflect. He was always busy. Always chasing more. More money. More praise. More success. But inside, something was missing. Something deep. And the cracks were starting to show. Never ruin an apology with an excuse. But David did it all the time. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. But David never prepared. He just improvised. If a man empties his purse into his head, no one can take it from him. But David never invested in learning. Only in looking good. He thought he was on top of the world. But the higher you fly, the harder the fall. And David's fall was coming faster than he could imagine. Success is like a ladder. You climb it one step at a time. But if you skip steps, you might fall. David's business was doing well, or at least, it looked like it was. He had more clients, more meetings, more emails. But he also had more problems. Deadlines missed. Angry phone calls. Team members quitting. And David? He smiled through it all. "Just a rough week," he said. "We'll bounce back." But deep down, he knew things were slipping. One day, he had a big meeting with a potential investor. It was important. A make or break deal. David arrived 20 minutes late. "Sorry, traffic was crazy," he said, laughing. The investor didn't laugh. David forgot half the presentation slides. He spoke fast, made big promises, and left early. 2 days later, he got the email, "Thank you, but we've decided to go in another direction." That same week, his team made a mistake in a client project. The client was furious. David walked into the office, slammed his laptop down, and shouted, "Who did this? Why can't you guys follow instructions?" But it wasn't their fault. David hadn't explained the project clearly. Still, he blamed them. Again. His team stopped trusting him. His assistant quit. A few longtime clients left silently. At home, things weren't better. His girlfriend, Emma, looked at him one evening and said, "David, you're always busy. You're always angry. I don't even know who you are anymore." David looked away. "I'm just under pressure. You wouldn't understand. You never listen," she said. "You only talk." That night, she packed her bags. She didn't slam the door. She just left. David sat alone in his big, expensive apartment. He looked around. Everything was still there, the sofa, the TV, the designer chairs. But everything felt empty. They all left, he thought. They couldn't handle the pressure. Still, he didn't blame himself. They just didn't get it. "I'm doing this for all of us." But something inside him whispered, "No, David. You're doing this for your ego." One afternoon, his best friend Mike, the only one still around, called him out, "Man, you need to slow down. You're burning everything: your company, your people, your life." "I'm fine," David replied. "I've got it under control." Mike paused. "You always have an excuse. That's your real problem." David hung up. He didn't want to hear it. He told himself, "They're just jealous. They don't see my vision." But the truth was simple: David was falling. And the worst part? He didn't even know it. Time is money. But David was wasting both. Love your enemies, for they tell you your faults. But David hated being corrected. Laziness travels so slowly that poverty soon overtakes him. David wasn't lazy with work, he was lazy with responsibility. And so, the cracks grew deeper. His money ran thin. His phone stopped ringing. His emails stayed unread. The golden boy. He was fading. And when you lose everything, all that's left is the truth. When you fall, it's not always loud. Sometimes, it's quiet. Quiet like unpaid bills. Quiet like an empty phone. Quiet like crying, when no one's watching. David was no longer the golden boy. His company was gone. His apartment sold. His car taken by the bank. He moved into a small room he found online. Just one bed, one chair, and no windows. He tried to get a new job. But no one hired him. Not with a failing business behind his name. Too risky, they said. David ate cheap noodles for dinner. He wore the same shirt for days. He sold his watch, then his laptop, then his pride. One night, he walked through the city alone. Rain was falling. His shoes were wet. And so were his eyes. He sat on a bench in a quiet park. He hadn't spoken to anyone in 2 days. "How did this happen?" he whispered. "I worked hard. I gave everything, but deep inside, he knew. He gave everything. Except honesty. Except humility." As he stared at the ground, an old man sat down next to him. His clothes were worn, but his eyes were kind. The man looked at David. "Tough day?" he asked. David didn't answer. The man smiled. "You look like someone who's lost more than money." David looked up, surprised. "I don't even know who I am anymore." The old man nodded slowly. "That's good. Good." David said. "I've lost everything." "Sometimes," the man said, "you have to lose everything, to find what truly matters." "Son," he continued, "time doesn't stop for your sadness. Time keeps walking. And if you don't move with it, it leaves you behind. You may delay, but time will not. Lost time is never found again. Rather go to bed without dinner, than rise in debt. David stayed silent. The man reached into his coat and handed David a small, wrinkled notebook. Write down everything you've learned, he said. Not about business. About yourself. When you're empty, it's the best time to start filling yourself with truth. Then he stood up, smiled, and walked away. David never even got his name. That night, David didn't eat. He didn't sleep. He opened the notebook, and wrote, I ruined good things with my pride. I blamed others for my own choices. I never listened. I'm sorry. Tears rolled down his face. But this time, they weren't just from pain. They were from awakening. Rock bottom is not the end. It's the ground you stand on, to rise again. When life strips everything away, it also removes the noise. And in the silence, you finally hear what truly matters. Change doesn't happen all at once. It's slow. Quiet. Like a flower pushing through dry soil. But when it starts, it's powerful. David woke up the next morning still holding the old man's notebook. He looked around the small, empty room. It was still cold. Still quiet. But something inside him felt different. If I can't change the past, he thought, maybe I can change myself. He flipped open the notebook again and wrote, Today, I will stop pretending. Today, I will start over. That was day one. David didn't have a job. He didn't have a plan. But he had something he hadn't had in years, humility. He walked to a local repair shop the next day. A small place that fixed bicycles and lawn mowers. I don't have experience, he told the owner. But I can work. I can learn. The owner, a quiet man named Joe, looked at him for a long moment. Then nodded. We'll see what you're made of. David swept the floor. Cleaned greasy tools. Ran errands. No one said good job. No one gave him a trophy. But for the first time in years, he felt real. At night, he returned to his little room. Opened the notebook. And read. And wrote. Books replaced his phone. Silence replaced the noise. He borrowed books from the local library, how to manage people. How to build trust. How to listen. And slowly, his mind began to grow. An investment in knowledge pays the best interest. David had no money. But now, he was rich in lessons. After 2 months, Joe gave him a small paycheck. David smiled, held it with both hands. I worked for this, he whispered. Not with ego, but with effort. He bought food. Nothing fancy. He shared a sandwich with a stray dog outside the shop. He named the dog Chance. You and me, buddy, he said. Both getting a second chance. One weekend, David sat in a quiet cafe, flipping through the notebook. He saw a page he didn't remember writing. It said, say sorry. And mean it. Not for them. For you. That night, he wrote messages to people he had hurt, his team. His ex-girlfriend, Emma. His best friend, Mike. Simple words. No drama. I was wrong. I didn't listen. I'm sorry. Some replied. Some didn't. But that wasn't the point. David wasn't fixing the past. He was freeing himself from it. He kept working, kept reading. He saved money, little by little. He started helping kids fix their bikes for free after work. One of them asked, why are you so nice now? David smiled. Because I used to be the opposite. Fatigue is the best pillow. That night, David slept deeply, not because he was tired, but because he was finally at peace. True success is not about climbing higher. It's about growing deeper. Not about being admired, but about becoming someone you admire. 3 years had passed. David no longer lived in that tiny room. He now had a small house, a simple life, and a calm heart. He still worked with his hands fixing things, building, helping. But now, he also taught young people on weekends. Taught them how to use tools. How to listen. How to fail, and grow. He didn't have a big company. He didn't need one. His life was full not of things, but of meaning. One morning, he opened his own little repair shop. Just a small sign, David's Fix It, honest work, fair price, no gold. No spotlight. But every tool was clean. Every job done with care. That day, a man walked in. Tall. Confident. Familiar. It was Mike, his old best friend. They hadn't seen each other since David lost everything. Mike looked around, smiled, and said, "So this is you now?" David nodded. "Yeah. It's not much. But it's real." Mike looked at David for a long moment. "You look different." "I feel different," David replied. "I used to want to impress the world. Now I just want to be honest with it." They sat down for coffee, strong, black, and quiet. Like old times. Mike pulled something from his pocket. It was David's old business card, torn, faded. "I kept this," Mike said, "to remind myself that even the strongest fall." David smiled. "Yeah, but they can rise too." They both laughed. Later that week, David saw Emma again. By accident at the library. She was standing in the self-help section. They made eye contact. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," David replied. There was no anger. No regret. Just peace. That night, David sat at his desk. He opened the old notebook from the park. The first page said, "Today, I will stop pretending." He turned to the last page. It was blank. He picked up a pen and wrote, "Today, I am no longer who I was. I'm someone I respect. And that's enough." Well done is better than well said. David no longer needed to say much. His actions, his work, his change said it all. Life's biggest tragedy is we get old too soon, and wise too late. David almost missed it. But not completely. Because wisdom came. Just in time. And now. He lives a life not of luxury. But of truth. And truth is the richest thing of all. Be at war with your vices, at peace with your neighbors, and let every new year find you a better man. Benjamin Franklin. David's story isn't just about failure. It's about transformation. He didn't rise again by chasing money, or proving others wrong. He rose by looking inside. By learning. By apologizing, without excuses. And by choosing to be better, not bitter. Maybe you're not David. But maybe, just maybe, there's a little David inside all of us. Maybe you've said sorry with a but. Maybe you've blamed others, when the mirror was right there. Or maybe, you're just tired of pretending you're fine. If that's you, it's okay. Because change doesn't begin with a big moment. It begins right now with a choice. The choice to be honest. The choice to take responsibility. The choice to say, I can be better. And starting today, I will. If this story touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment, tell me what your biggest lesson was. Maybe it was about time. Maybe it was about pride. Or maybe it was about second chances. Hit the like button if you believe in growth. And share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Because you never know. A small story can plant a seed that changes someone's life. And finally, before you go, remember this, you don't have to be perfect to begin. You just have to begin. I'll see you in the next story. And until then, keep growing, keep learning, keep becoming someone you're proud of.